NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, guys, I got tagged in a Chase Daniel clip about 85 times yesterday. And I responded to the first one saying, who cares? And the clip, which I wish we can show, but we are not legally allowed to show you.
I wish we could too.
Was after Shedeur's first interception, he didn't move. And I said, who cares? It's cold. I don't want my quarterback who I'm trying to evaluate making a tackle in negative temperatures. This is a non-story.
Yeah.
And then I got tagged in it 45 more times. And then UCSS got tagged in it 100 more times. Said, all right,
jeez.
Guess we got to ask about it. So, guys, do you believe it is a big deal, a small deal, no big deal at all, that after he threw his first interception to the linebacker, Shedeur did not move an inch?
I think it's a small deal. It's not no deal, but I don't think it's a big deal. The Browns, a couple of years ago, lost a quarterback, and you can say it actually led to them literally losing a quarterback because of Baker Mayfield.
There it is. Go ahead.
However, I will say this. I did not notice that in real time as I watched the game. I will say my first reaction to it when I saw it was jaw-dropping. He didn't move either foot. He was still in the position that he finished throwing the football in. And it was a kind of akin to, when a ball's hit over a left fielder's head, and he just stands there and doesn't turn around.
Yeah, with the home run.
I think, we've never talked about this, but as a pitcher, I hate that.
Yeah, that would piss me off.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're doing things for the optics of them. I watched New England lose to Buffalo on Sunday, but I also watched their young quarterback, Drake May, run 65 yards down the field to block and run interference for Travion Henderson so he could score a touchdown. And I went back and looked at the play because in my mind, I thought he was doing a lot more blocking when in reality, he was just kind of shielding the defender from getting to Travion Henderson, which made a difference. It helped score the touchdown. But to me, it was the optics of it. And at the time, the broadcaster during the game said, that's exactly what makes young men follow other young men. That's what a leader looks like. Now, say what you will about Baker. I think Baker is reckless. But one of the things that you'll always hear broadcasters and teammates say about Baker is, oh, he's a dude. He's a player. We're going to go out there and we're going to go to war with this guy. He's a trash talker. There's famous videos of him standing in the tunnel talking to guys. Yeah, we'll see if you're still talking that junk at halftime. Like, guys like that. Guys, they're looking for a leader. So I don't want Shedeur running out there and recklessly throwing his body at someone when what difference is that going to make? It was still a 14-3 game. I don't want him to be reckless, but I also don't want him to stand in that very position while all 10 of his teammates are chasing someone. So again, I think it's optics. I don't think it's a major deal, but I do think it is a deal.
G?
So no, this is not a deal. And by the way, I'm gonna keep it real because people will say, "G. Bush, why would you not think this was a deal? If it wasn't Shedeur Sanders, you would have actually, to be truthful, if you go back and rewind the time." So let's take a look at this. This is Exhibit A. If we kind of zoom in on this, I know I could have sent this in on tag board, but this right here, my good people,
tag board not full.
This is tag board not full.
Tag board doesn't work, so ironically, thank you, tag board, for being
Baker Mayfield has been playing with a partially torn labrum in his left shoulder. Right? And how did he get it? Suffered an injury on a non-throwing shoulder on September 9th, trying to make a tackle against the Houston Texans. Now, here's the thing.
I don't know if it was pick six, it was interception.
It was interception, right. I was livid when that happened. That right there was the beginning of the end for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. That play.
Yeah, because he got hurt.
He got hurt.
Yeah.
The whole shoulder thing, he kept trying to play through it, he eventually left. The thing that I get, and a thing a lot of coaches will tell you, not only do I not want my quarterback running and tackle nobody, I want them to run the opposite way. Because guess what people are going to do?
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
A quarterback run the opposite way?
Because
I've never seen that.
Because when you throw, you know what we're going to do? If I'm a defensive lineman and we done flipped over,
You're looking for the quarterback.
I'm finding the quarterback.
Sure.
And I'm going to try to put him into the turf.
That's what you're looking
for.
for.
The reality of the situation is quarterbacks don't compound and put your team in a situation. You already threw the interception. Do not compound it by them, you getting injured and having your throwing shoulder being screwed up. I don't want Josh Allen doing it. I don't want nobody. If you're a quarterback, you throw a pick, I want you to be as far away from that as possible.
Let me ask you this, because I get that. It is smart. It's a business decision. That's what we call it. But let me ask you this. If on a kickoff, a kicker kicked the ball and then stood right there at his tee, never moved, stood right there at his tee, and the defenders fail to stop the kick returner, and on the video we see that, where's your safety valve? Well, he's standing right over his tee, because he doesn't want to get hurt. He's a very important position. You only carry one kicker. You can't lose this guy. But he's standing right at his tee, and the kick returner goes right by him, and he's just standing there watching him.
You know what they tell him?
I'm ripping that kicker.
You know what they tell the kicker, Bull?
Yeah.
They tell him, you're the last defense.
Yeah.
You're trying to wait time. You're trying to corral him.
Right.
I get that, but you're trying.
Here's the deal, Jay.
You're trying.
You brought up the Drake May situation.
Yeah.
What happens if Drake May got hurt on that play?
You know what I loved about what
We
Drake May
crucified him.
did?
Yeah.
And I didn't catch this the first time, Bull.
Yeah.
Because the first time when I watched it originally,
Yeah.
my first thought was, Drake May, what are you doing?
Right.
But when I rewatched it, I watched it completely differently, and I saw what he did was actually what I would call smart interference. He wasn't engaging the player. He did have a little bit of leverage on the player.
Yeah.
And so what he was doing was running alongside of him. Now, I think Drake May's a bigger guy.
But you can't do that on an interception return.
No.
You can't.
No, but
That would have been pointless.
Well, what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, on that, again, I do think there's a fine line between when you engage and when you don't.
Right.
And also, what are the optics of it? There's levels. He could have attempted to move and look like he was going in that direction. There were two other Browns that were running with no intent of catching him.
Right.
None.
But what's
they
the
were
point of that?
running. They were running.
But in the end, it
I
doesn't
just
matter.
think to me it was a bad look that a guy throws a pick and then literally he's standing in the same spot.
I honestly didn't think anything of it, even after I saw the video.
You think it was talked about by the coaches?
I doubt it.
G?
No.
Never brought up.
What did Chase Daniels
Think
say?
any of the
I had
offensive teammates didn't look at it and think,
No, here's.
I don't want my. I've seen so many quarterbacks get hurt.
I
I know what I would do on that field. I know what my instinct would be.
And I'm going to just go back to what I told Baker. Bro, you have to be smarter than that. You are the team. The Browns team, think about this. The Browns were in a position where they were competing with the Kansas City Chiefs, a loaded roster.
The Browns
tanked.
aren't there now.
I know. We tanked. You are the quarterback, the leader. If you are out of these games, we have no chance of winning. And sometimes we call this fake hustle.
I'd applaud fake hustle here.
I hate. You know what? I don't like fake hustle because fake hustle get people hurt. Do not be running after that. Great. You made a tackle against a guy, and that play in infamy counted for nothing. You got injured. The Browns ended up floundering the rest of the season. We missed the playoffs because you're trying to make that tackle. I get it. You want to indoctrinate.
Hell, he got traded for it.
You expect? I want my quarterback to.
But
use
now go
his
back
head.
and look at the contact. Like Baker wasn't just fake hustle, but Baker. And it was stupid what he did.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Dove at him like
why
he's a
do we want somebody
quarterback.
to do something stupid?
I don't want him to do that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There's a
but-
fine line between what Baker did and what Shedeur did, but there's a lot of area in between
I'd
those.
rather my quarterback stand there and do nothing than try to make a tackle and get hurt.
Even if you're just running to the ball, what if the ball gets knocked free?
They're looking for you.
Somebody could
There's
fall on
other
it.
guys there.
There are,
I
but
just don't want anything.
If you can get 6 guys around the ball to fall on it, or 7, give me 7.
Because the risk of the quarterback getting hurt is higher than the quarterback making a play.
And Bull, so if that's the case, why
Yeah.
does he ever drop back to throw a pass?
If he
He could get crushed. He could get hurt.
but it's in the line of him doing what
are you
he's supposed
talking
to.
about?
It's in the line of him doing
I
his
said
job.
the risk of him getting hurt
Yeah.
on a play like that
Yes.
is he has a greater risk of getting hurt than making a play.
Yes.
When you drop back for a pass,
You got to do it.
But
You have
there's
a better chance of. You have a better chance.
Well, I think my overall
you didn't
point
let
is
me finish
he's
my point.
playing football.
Jay, you didn't even let me finish my point.
Finish.
You said, well, why would he throw a pass? When you throw a pass, you have a better chance of making a play than getting hurt.
And
Do you have a chance of getting hurt?
Yes, but there
Of course.
there are
Yeah.
protections.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have a much better chance of making a play than getting hurt.
in the
On a
pocket.
play like that, you have almost no chance of making a play.
And in the pocket,
and yet you
Bull,
have a chance of getting hurt.
in the pocket.
I have seen quarterbacks tackle the interceptor before.
Jay, in the pocket, you have rules and regulations that protect the quarterback. You can't hit him.
No, I get what you're saying. When he's a defender, he's fair game.
He's fair
That's
game.
Keep your head on a swivel.
It's irrelevant. It's
Keep your head on a
It's
swivel.
a bad comparison.
What I'm saying though
Yeah.
is, when he's dropping back as a quarterback, there's protections where you can't hit him certain places, and he is protected. Once that ball turns over, he is now a defender. Those protections are gone. What I'm going to do as a defensive lineman is hunt him out and make him pay. If he's moving it, he shouldn't be by piles. He shouldn't be running to the play.
I want my quarterback.
I don't want him nowhere near
a tackle.
Fair look, it's a business decision. He made a business decision.
I don't look at that as a business
Sure
decision.
it is. A business decision is, do I engage or not?
I
Is
think,
there a chance that I get hurt on here? That's a business decision. Am I
think-
right?
I think it's a team
That's
decision.
a business decision.
That's a
I think it's
franchise
team
decision.
No, it's a business decision.
It's a team
The franchise
decision,
isn't making
Jay.
that decision for you. You
It's
are.
a team. It's a team. It's a smart team decision.
And you know what? Because of that reason,
when you
because
say
it
a
is
business
team,
decision, you make it seem like it's a selfish move.
No,
I don't
I'm
think
not.
it's selfish. Yeah.
Listen, there's some business decisions that I support. Some business decisions are good decisions.
If you
want to stay in business or do you want to be out of business?
If you want,
and what he did there was he said, I want to stay in business.
Yeah.
That is a business decision.
a $300 million quarterback or a guy who is a franchise guy or a guy that you're trying to take and evaluate, guess what? That's the best business decision.
To me, I look at Drake May. His position is solidified.
Well, he tripped.
That guy's locked in. He is the 10-year future starter for the New England Patriots.
Well, maybe, but
And when I watched what he did on that play, I can't watch that in any other way and saying,
but that's a bad comparison.
that dude
Jay.
is a leader. He is a baller.
It's an unfair comparison.
That's my comparison. You can make your
No,
own.
but it doesn't.
I'm
it's
just
not
saying
apples
mine.
to, it's not apples to apples.
You're right.
One's
You know
on
why?
offense, one's
Because
on
Drake
defense.
May has a lot more to lose than Shedeur Sanders does.
Agreed, but one is a play. You just said he didn't actually do anything. He didn't put himself at risk.
No, here's what he did.
Yeah.
He ran down the field and he caused interference to
Right.
keep the defender from tackling him.
And if Shedeur Sanders had a chance to do that same thing and didn't do it, I would have a problem with it. But that's not the same thing.
It's not
here.
the same scenario.
Again, Bull, it's the optics of it. When you saw that play, you
Yeah.
literally were like, yeah, that's cool. I got no
Yeah.
problem with that.
I didn't think anything of
Nothing.
it.
Really?
I don't want my
I'm
quarterback
surprised because you're usually an effort guy. I'm an effort guy. I want all 11 on the field. When they're on the field, I want effort.
If my quarterback gets hurt,
I don't want you to be dumb. I don't want you to be Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
But I also, just the optics of him throwing and then he just stood there and watched.
if Drake May got hurt, their season's over.
Done.
Unquestionably, not only their season, Bull, their future.
Well, I mean, that would be a catastrophic injury, maybe.
If you lose a franchise quarterback, it doesn't set you back more than the rest of that season.
Yeah.
How do you think
It
Kansas
could.
City is? Look at Kansas City right now. If they have to go to war next year without their franchise
well,
guy,
but he'll be back.
he may. I mean, we don't know. He also tore his LCL.
Yeah, he'll
and
probably be back,
and
but
speaking from someone
it's
who's
not a
done
running
just
back,
the
though.
ACL
Yeah.
and then other ligaments with it, it adds time to the recovery.
Sure, yeah.
So it could be if he's 10 months away, he comes back in October.
Hey, man,
I don't love their chances
hey,
if he comes back in October.
You know, Shedeur Sanders is at a point where proving things for optics just so you can have some optics don't mean nothing. To me, you know what I would rather him do? I would rather him sit here, watch the dude as it happens, because chances are the guys will make a tackle. They made the tackle. And what I would rather you do is figure out how you got fooled on the interception and not let that happen again. Not make tackles. I'm like, okay, that's a learning decision. That's a learning point. I've got a problem with what you did.
Let me ask you this
The
question,
interception.
Would there have been a flag if a defender knocked him right on off his feet on that play?
Not if they're blocking.
As long as it wasn't helmet to helmet, no.
So if you're on a football field and you stand still, they can't hit you?
If you were running, so here's the thing. If I'm standing still, right, and the play's over there, everybody's running towards the play.
They can hit him, G.
But
Yeah, they
but
could.
They could hit him.
They could.
But
And
here's
it's
the
not a
thing.
penalty.
But here's the thing. Is it more of an option or more of a likelihood that they're going to hit you if you're running towards the football pile?
But
of course.
Yeah, but they can hit you.
Yes.
So the defender or the guys that were playing defense that were maybe looking to, hey, I'm going to see if I can spring a block, and they come across the guy just standing there. I know what you would do to him.
Yeah. Here's what
you put him into the dirt.
You know what I would tell any quarterback? Sit right, unless it is unless it is the last play and it is the Super Bowl. If you throw an interception, I would like you to take yourself and run right to the sideline. I don't want you nowhere.
I've never
near
seen
the
that.
play.
I can't imagine I ever will see that.
Because watch this.
I can't imagine I ever see that.
He's too important. So just take him out of it. I would tell you about Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes.
Joe Burrow missed the whole season because he made a tackle.
This is what I'm saying.
And by the way, if I'm Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and I'm those guys,
Baker Mayfield.
I am not.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah, and if I'm any of those guys and I want to disengage, okay, I get it. You're dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
If I'm a young buck trying to make my way in the NFL and win over teammates and fans and coaches, guess what I'm not doing?
Well, here's the thing.
What I'm not doing is standing there and watching all 10 of my brothers chase someone down.
And watch this. If Shedeur Sanders was to go out there and hurt his shoulder and get injured, that might be the last time he's playing, period. Let's keep it real. Like, you act like he's going to get a guarantee. He's getting a guaranteed option to play next year.
He's not.
So my thing is, yes. So I'm not about to go out here try to make a tackle. I got 4 more games to play. I'm the quarterback. I need to be judged on quarterback plays, not how good I look getting hurt on a tackle.
I think this is a perfect example of seeing a situation and who is in that situation and deciding it on that. Because I've asked myself before this question today, what if it was Josh Allen? First of all, in my head, I cannot imagine a scenario where Josh Allen does that. I've never seen a quarterback do that.
You may be right, but if I'm a Bills fan, I don't want Josh.
I know what you want, Bull. I get that. And again, I get that it's if there's a dumb play to make, it's to go stick your nose into the ball carrier. I don't want him doing that.
Well,
what I want him doing is at least show a little effort.
Let me ask
don't
you this.
stand there and be neutral.
Let me ask you this: if you got a private moment with everybody on the Browns and they all said across the board, "No, I don't want him chasing after it."
I don't think they would say that.
Well, but if they did, would you change your mind? Or if the large majority did?
Well, I don't think I would because.
Well, but your whole argument's been about like leadership to the team.
No, that's part of
the whole team said they.
Well, I think that's part of the. My thing is, and I understand that there's a risk to get injured if you do that. There is a risk, a calculable risk, on every play that a football player steps on the field. There's a risk. We saw what happened to DeMar Hamlin a couple of years ago. There is, and the risk, it varies. It goes from dying, which could happen, to being paralyzed the rest of your life, which could happen, to getting a stinger and missing a series, to making an aggressive tackle but not getting hurt and coming right back out in the next series. So there's all kinds of possibilities in there. For me, personally, and this is just a personal decision, you can either look at it and say, I'm cool with that, or you can, I don't care who the quarterback is. If I see a quarterback do that, I'm going to raise my eyebrows. That's
fair.
Just the way I am.
I mean, listen, I get it.
If my feet are on the field, I know one thing. I'm going to give every effort I have.
I disagree, but I don't think you're crazy for feeling that.
That's your personal preference.
I think there's certainly an argument for it.
I don't think you're crazy either. The reason I say that is because I get business decisions. I get them.
And I'll tell you this in terms of, well, is it Shedeur blinding people? Unfortunately now, every time I want to discuss Shedeur, I think to myself, am I just saying this because it's Shedeur?
Yep.
And before I make a final decision.
I agree, Bull.
Because there's a lot of pressure because
but you know what? We
for every 15 positive things you say about Shedeur, one negative, everybody gives you crap. And you got to ignore that.
What you just said is entirely true, but and I think if you talk to anybody, talk to Jason, talk to G, talk to Tyvin, you have pressure in a different way that we've never discussed on this show.
What's that?
You have pressure to be supportive for the culture. And I know you feel that. I know you do because I've talked to plenty of other people that are in your spot that have readily admitted, hell yeah, I have pressure.
So when you say that, what does that mean? Drill down on that.
What it means is if you come out and let's just say that, and I'm not going to name names because we've talked about this and they've actually said I would never admit this publicly. two friends that I have that I've worked with the business for a long time that have said this, man, I can't say anything bad about him. My people will come after me with knives. They'll kill me for that. So I said, so well, what do you do then? Do you change your opinion? You don't change your opinion, do you? And he said, the one said, well, what I find myself doing is trying to find the positives in his game and focusing on those. And Bull, you know this. I know you know this well because you've been in this opinion world for a long time. This is what I don't like about the opinion world, by the way. There's always outside pressure. The second you start listening to it, you compromise your integrity.
Absolutely.
So you agree with that?
So
let
let me address that. So you go back to Monday, right? What'd I say? I said, first and foremost, as we talk about it, I don't think Shedeur Sanders played well. I gave you an opportunity. See, this is the thing I do. Here's the thing.
I'm not questioning your integrity.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just
and I think you've been relatively fair for the most part.
See, what I'm saying, though, is, what I do is I not only give you that, I go do film breakdown.
Sure.
So when I do film breakdown, we roll over every single throw, the good ones, the bad ones. Tyvus will say, this is not it, that ain't it, this was it, this wasn't it. So the thing I back up is based on two things. Yeah, you can think Shedeur Sanders can play, or you think you can think what you want of him. But the thing that's going to keep you on the football field and the thing that we talk about is always the thing. That is how well you play. I've been consistent from Jump Street. Now, I thought he should have got an opportunity to play quicker, but when he has played bad or thrown the interceptions, I can give you the play I thought he got fooled on. I can give you the two plays I thought he did well on, and we're going to break that down. So for me, there is no pressure in terms of the culture.
Pressure?
No. Why would I feel pressure? Why would I feel pressure? Because the reason I like Shedeur Sanders and the reason, hold on, let me explain. The reason I messed with Shedeur Sanders was because I felt he could play. See, people got it confused, like, oh, you guys are starstruck. He's a star. His name wasn't Sanders. No, everything that I stood on was based upon what my pre-draft evaluation was. Now, when we talking about could he play on the football field, that's what I stick my flag on. The thing I push back on is this. There are certain things that were negative that were said about Shedeur Sanders that I believe were completely biased, they was not transparent, and it was narrative-based content.
That's fair, G.
So when I push back against that ain't the culture. I'm pushing back against the things that people are saying that were unfounded and were not true. So for me, I never have no problem telling nobody if Shedeur Sanders play well or if he don't play well, because I already have it on camera. It's on tape. We go over the film. The film is what tells me is he good or not. So I don't got no pressure. I just said it a couple seconds ago. Somebody was in the chat. G. Bush, you flip-flopping. So, what you talking flip-flop? Ain't no flip-flop. I'm standing on business. I said he didn't play that well. But I will tell you, though.
Gee, that's indisputable. I mean, nobody could have sat in your chair Monday and said he played well.
So what?
Nobody.
So why would I feel pressure?
So what I'm telling you is I think that for the most part, you've had a lot of integrity in sitting there and standing on what you believe. Look, you can believe a player's going to be good or is good and be wrong. That happens all the time.
Of course.
It happens every day. I've missed on a million guys.
I talk about it. I go back and say this. With Carson Schlesinger, I always use this example. When Carson Schlesinger got drafted, we did a draft show up here. I was freaking out. I said, I don't know what's wrong with this.
Well, add in Mason Graham. You said if they draft Mason Graham, I'm off the show.
And then guess what? Here's the thing that I always go on. I took my little self out to practice. I watched Carson Schlesinger play. And I said, oh, this guy can play. My thing with the media and the problem we have is we're to a point where we shouldn't even be to a point where we have to double down on certain things. All you should do is you should be able to get new information, judge it based on what you see in today, and be able to, but now everybody is, oh, no, I don't believe this. It still ain't that. Guys, you don't get extra credit points for saying that you're right all the time. Sometimes if Shedeur Sanders plays wrong, doesn't play it well all the time, it's okay to say that. But it's also okay to say, you know what, some of the pre-draft analysis that I got of him, that was kind of faulty. They kind of said he couldn't play or get in and out of the huddle or Dylan Gabriel was better. Like a lot of people were saying that stuff.
Gee, that's why the best of the best are supposed to be the general managers, right? If you look at it, the 32 most knowledgeable people about the NFL should be general managers. Guess what? They miss more than they get it right.
Yeah.
With quarterbacks, it's the hardest position in the world to evaluate.
Yeah.
I understand that. To your original point.
Yeah.
And again, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Because I do find myself saying, okay, how am I going to attack this? And at the end of the day, I always come back to the same thing.
Yeah.
I have to be genuine. Because if I'm not, anything I say is flat.
So
None
Mike,
of it matters.
really quick, and then we'll move on because I know Mike wants to move on, but it's very important to respond to this. When I got into this business in 1999, and I've been in the opinion business since 2001 because I was doing
Which is a different business, by
right.
the way.
So I've been in the opinion business for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
I swore to myself in 2001, I was 30 years old. I said I would never say anything on the air that I didn't believe.
Smart.
Unless I was joking around, would be sarcastic. And
that's a very good way to go about it.
I have never said anything on the air that I didn't believe. But when I say I have to think about Shedeur Sanders, what I'm saying is, let me make sure, I want to make extra sure that on a nebulous topic with Shedeur Sanders, I'm not afraid to say something negative just because it's easy to just let this one slide. And so I'm making sure that I don't do that.
Yeah, I mean
every time.
The bull I know makes sure he does that every time.
Well,
You've never come out here and flippantly thrown out an opinion. The reason you're good at this, Bull, is because you have a firm flag to plant.
Absolutely.
The guys that don't,
right,
I don't really know.
That's it.
What I'm looking at. That's why. So people always say, "Well, what made Skip and Stephen A? What made them?" Watch them for 15 minutes. What makes them is, in Skip's case, they vehemently believe what they're saying is true. In Stephen A's case, he can argue a point that he may not be fully committed to, but you would never know it by the way he approached the topic, because he comes at it full guns blazing. Yeah. And so on this particular topic, I have sat here and said Shedeur's done a lot of great things. Mm-hmm. His deep ball is way better than I thought it was going to be. In terms of looking like a quarterback, earlier in the show, Leroy said, I think Dillon Gabriel looks like a quarterback. I think Shedeur Sanders looks like a quarterback. I think Shedeur Sanders looks more like a quarterback than Dillon Gabriel because of his stature. He's bigger. Yes. He gets in the huddle fine. He's got no problem calling the plays, commanding the offense. I've seen him do things on the field that make me say that guy's a leader. I've seen a lot of good things about Shedeur Sanders, but I am not being genuine if I look at stuff and squint and say, I could see that in a positive light.
Right.
And I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
And
but when I judge that play, I take the uniform off, put any other team's uniform and any other number on the back of that uniform.
Yeah. But you'd think all fans would want.
I wish we could show the play.
But guys,
because it's worse than I'm even explaining.
And I know we got to go because we got to get to Josh Allen and stuff. But listen, let's just be honest. I said this before. This is not the first time we've been here. Do you think that people loved when I said Baker Mayfield wasn't playing? Well, no, they didn't like it. You got to understand something.
But there were times you were right.
But here's the thing. It comes with the good and the bad. You just take it.
That's why I'm not complaining.
No, I'm just saying. The Deshaun, you got to think about it. This conversation about Shedeur Sanders is easy money. That Shedeur don't even really do nothing. You know how many conversations and what kind of letters and mail you get when you talk about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
That's why for me, I'm like, people like, oh, well, you're saying it's just because I said, but do you understand? I said stuff about Deshaun Watson that had legal ramifications, social implications, and people that took off their colors because of allegations for Deshaun Watson. So my thing is, people that's acting like this is the most difficult thing in the world to talk about because people think Shedeur Sanders can play. We've always had this. We've been going back and forth about Odell Beckham Jr., Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson.
And we will always have it.
And we will always have it.
The way the fans react to Shedeur is not like any of those others.
Well, the reason you had mentioned, I think it was Monday, maybe it was last week, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it was last week. You had given a grade on your podcast.
Yeah.
And you got hammered for it, even though most of your comments were positive.
Right.
And then when you came to the show, you gave a slightly better grade. And you said, I went back and I watched it again, which is smart.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it does views differently the second time. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
But this is the danger if you're going to live in the opinion world. I learned this from Skip Bayless many years ago. He was showing me his mentions. He wouldn't look at them. He goes, here's my mentions. Take a look. And I'm looking, and I was literally like, oh my God, Skip.
Yeah.
How do you get up in the morning? How do you go to bed at night? How do you walk down the streets of New York City without looking over your shoulder? Many times, kill yourself.
Yeah.
But folks, let's just take a step back. This is sports. This isn't life and death. And these people that will get in the comments, and by the way, with their internet muscle, and say things like, kill yourself? Are you kidding me? So Skip did this as a brief exercise. We were at lunch one day, and I was scanning through it. I could only look at it for about 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh, my God, Skip, this is awful. And you know what he said? And they were 95% were negative. He said, that's why I'm successful. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I elicit response.
Yeah, sure.
I'll move people. He said, and here's what I've learned through doing this. There are far more people that agree with me than don't. You always hear from the people that don't agree. In social norms, they've done studies on this. You are 9 times more likely to complain than you are to give a compliment.
Yeah, that's true.
So if that's true, for every 10 comments you read, you were 9 times more likely to send that comment. And for every compliment you get, the person... That's rare. That's rare. Yeah. That's why I decided years ago I don't read anything. I don't read comments. I don't read. The last thing I would do is jump in a chat. Mike Greenberg also used to say this. Mike said, you know how this is how you can determine your popularity. How much money do you make? That's because a corporation has decided you are valuable to us to the tune of $6 million. Now, why are Skip and Stephen A. the highest paid guys? Because they elicit response. But now Stephen A. is a little more, not a little more, a lot more, because Skip is not thin skin at all. I used to say this with quarterbacks. Rabbit ears and thin skin is the worst possible combination.
Yeah.
In television, you need earmuffs, and you just look at where you're going. And Skip's been able to do that. Stephen A. will, and this is odd for me, I'm surprised it's not his personality, he will call out his detractors. And he's been doing a lot of that the last 3 months. And my advice to Stephen A. is tune it out. Tune it out. Don't listen to it. If you ever wonder your value, look at your bank account.